I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is discovery and bringing those discoveries to the world. And what does that look like? What's our responsibility? What is it to discover something new? It should be an entertaining and interesting, stimulating conversation. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding into your lungs and flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any negativity, stress, fatigue, tension. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, and lighting you up from the inside out. As you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together, very, very softly. Rub your fingers against your palms and feel the tickling and the tingling and that wonderful sensation, and allow yourselves to become present right here, right now. Good morning, Rosalind, and good morning to everybody else who's joining us this morning. Rosalind, thank you so much for chiming in. Lets me know that we're actually live. I so appreciate that, and so appreciate your consistent presence. And for everybody else who's joining us, it's so wonderful to have you here. Today we are talking about discovery and sharing discovery. And so this topic today is generated because I had the amazing privilege of being interviewed by Dr. Timothy Hayes, who has a podcast and radio show, Journey's Dream, and there's another podcast name that I'm slipping on at the moment. But anyway, I was interviewed by him about the core connection work and that I do. And I invite you to listen to it because you guys spend all this time with me every morning, but you don't really, and I reference the core connection work periodically, but you don't really know what it is. And this is a great interview. I listened to it and I was amazed. I was, you sometimes you hear yourself and you're just like, oh, wow, like, who is that? Anyway, it's just a really good explanation of the work. And so if you have any interest in it, I encourage you to go check it out. I put the link to it in the chat. And it connected me to the fact that this work, the core connection work, is a unique, I don't know if you want to call it modality, technique, process, whatever. In my experience, anyway, it's unique and really powerful. And along with it, one of the things that I have felt called to do is to teach this work because it's so powerful. I feel like it was gifted to me, and I've been developing it over the past more than 30 years. And it's a discovery, essentially, because it's so effective that I really don't want to see it die with me. Not that I'm intending to die anytime soon, but I don't know how long I'm going to continue doing the work. And I want to be able to make sure it gets passed on, that other people get to benefit from the power of this process. So it made me start thinking about discovery and when people discover something that is life-changing, or that is culture changing, or that is technology changing, or that is thought changing, what kind of responsibility do we have to be passing that information along. And I wonder what you think about this, in terms of social responsibility. Or good morning, Bernadette. Welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here. We're talking about discovery, and it was prompted by the fact that I had the privilege of being interviewed by Dr. Tim Hayes for a podcast called Journey's Dream. And there's actually another podcast name that I don't have access to at the moment, so I apologize for that. But I put a link in the chat of the interview, and one of the things that Tim challenged me to was teaching this work, because it's powerful and it makes a difference. And I want to be able to see people benefit from that work, from that process, when I'm no longer doing it or no longer here. And so the idea is, what many of us discover new techniques of doing something, or new ways of thinking, or something new. We generate something new, and then what? Does that thing die with us? Does it pass with us, or with our passing interest? And what kind of responsibility, if any, do we have to be sharing those discoveries, right? And in history, people have shared all kinds of discoveries at great personal cost. For instance, when it was discovered that the earth rotates around the sun rather than vice versa, then there was persecution, and people were sentenced to death for all kinds of new ideas. And it can, not in my case, certainly, is it going to be life-threatening, but there are people who discover new technologies and are killed and erased, so to speak. Their technologies are erased because they're threatening to the status quo. Rosalind says a facilitator course. I would take the course. Wow, that's really cool, Rosalind. Thank you for that vote of confidence. So I would love to get feedback from you guys, like what kind of course, because this work is so intense. To go back to the core connection work that I do, it can be extremely intense, the emotions that people experience in the context of the work. There are a couple things that I've thought about in terms of how I would be sharing this work. One thing is that it would be important for everybody that's learning to do the work to be doing the work. So people would be needing to have sessions as part of the work. And I thought that it would be really cool to be able to have observational sessions where, there would be the group of people that were taking the facilitator training, and we would do the sessions collectively, so that that everybody would be there to be able to observe and analyze what's going on in the sessions. The other thing is that the emotion that people experience is really, really sometimes very intense. And one of the requirements for effective facilitation certainly is that the facilitator be able to be present, to remain present, without judgment, without fear, without their own stuff coming into the mix when somebody's freaking out. And that can be really challenging sometimes, because sometimes that emotion's really super intense. So what I was thinking, that the ideal way that I would like to see this is for people who are super committed, that I would see it being a year-long training. At least that's my initial concept of it, with 2 meetings a week kind of thing. And, with group observation, and then also skills training, and eventually having the people that are the facilitators in training doing the course, doing the sessions while being observed, by the group, or by me, whatever. So those are my ideas around it at the moment. But I'm very interested in feedback. So, I know a year commitment is perhaps a daunting commitment. People have said, well, why not do it in bits and pieces and bits and bytes, smaller parts, but I don't want to be having people go off kind of half-cocked thinking they know what this is, and doing it irresponsibly, because I know that there can be fallout from this work. I've done over 1,000 sessions that, I've learned a lot in doing all that work. And it's big stuff when you start messing around with people's internal constructs, right? But anyway, please, if this is of interest, if you're curious, a facilitator for personal growth. So Bernadette, you missed the beginning. I apologize. In this interview, I was challenged to teach my core connection work that I've been developing over the past more than 30 years. And it's really, really powerful personal change work, but it would be for people who are interested in being facilitators for others in this work. So yeah, that's what the training would be. And the conversation is generated from that interview, but the question that is, 30 condensed knowledge over several years. Yeah, big time. It's been a long learning curve, should I say. It's actually been an evolution because the work has taught me, So yeah, 30 years condensed into 1 year. Exactly. So I think, I think that that's reasonable, frankly. Knowing, because I have looked at what are the skills that are involved, and not just the skills, but the level of emotional intelligence and awareness that's necessary to be able to do the work in a way that is responsible, both for the practitioner, the facilitator, as well as the client. So anyway, and then I'd have to figure out how to price it. I don't really know how to do that. Yeah, so I'm willing to engage in a conversation if you're interested in it, to help brainstorm what the format would be and how I could put that together. I would love that. But anyway, the point of today's conversation is really to be looking at when we make a discovery, and so many of us do when we don't even acknowledge it. Maybe it's a discovery about how to create something. Oh, Maggie's spreading her tail feathers. She does have really amazing tail feathers and beautiful wings. We showed her wings yesterday. So she's got all these feathers in her tail. It's amazing. Come on, baby. Let's see your tail. Let's see. Look at these amazing tail feathers. She's got this really big collection of feathers on her tail. I rarely see them. Every now and then she fluffs up her tail. I don't know if I can get her to do it, but you can see they're really lovely. Anyway, thank you for noticing her beautiful tail feathers, Bernadette. So what kind of responsibility, when we make a discovery, do we have to share it? I mean, oftentimes, like with recipes, even, recipes are passed down in families, generation to generation, right? And sometimes they're shared, sometimes they're guarded secrets. And as we make discoveries, we're in an era of open source, where lots of people share their information through open source. I'm gonna give you a treat here, Bernadette. I don't know if you saw her wings yesterday, but oh, Maggie, what beautiful wings. Oh my gosh. How pretty, Maggie. Thank you. Good girl. Beautiful wings. Yeah, she's got such wonderful colors. And a friend of mine characterized Maggie in such a beautiful way. She said she's like a flying flower. Isn't that cool? You know, with all her gorgeous colors, like a flying flower. Anyway, so discoveries, what kind of responsibility do we have to share them? Particularly if they can be changing, making an impact. So Bernadette says, the course seems interesting, but I need to hear more. Well, I appreciate that it sounds interesting. There is no course yet. Like I haven't developed it, and I've just thought about it. And I haven't really put something together yet. And part of the reason that I haven't put it together yet is because the clients, I want people that do the course to have done the work, ideally to have done the work so they know the impact of it. But the thing is that the clients that I have are not people that want to be facilitators. So, they're utilizing the technology in their own life, right? They're doing their own personal growth and change and going on their path. So I have this chicken and egg kind of thing going on about, finding the clients that have done the work. So really, I think what I'm probably going to need to do is to give like an introductory session to people that are interested possibly in the course, and then as part of the course they would be having sessions, because that's really important, for each of us to get beyond some of the things that would prove limiting in the context of being facilitators for it. Anyway, open conversation. I really appreciate your interest and your curiosity about it. And if I have enough folks that are interested in it, maybe what I can do is put together a group meeting where we could have a conversation about it at some point. But I do know that this work is something that is worthy of teaching people. And not only is it worthy to, but I kind of feel an obligation and a responsibility to make sure that it continues, because it is that powerful. So anyway, I invite you to check out that interview so you get a little bit better sense of, I think you get a sense of me and what I'm up to a bit through these talks every day, but you can check out that interview because it's probably the most coherent explanation of what the work is about and what kind of my mission is in regard to that work that I've ever had the privilege to convey. So Bernadette says the leadership is hard to find. Well, Bernadette, I'm all about all of us becoming leaders, and that we lead collectively, rather than leaders and followers, that we instead become arm in arm leaders, so that's really what I envision. And I think that there are some massive shifts in paradigm that we get to propagate, folks. That's what we're here for. And that's where we, with these discoveries, with our evolution. I think this is evolutionary work. And I think that there's so much that's happening now. There's so many, as people are finding their greater purpose and expressing that we are creating an accelerated evolution of humanity. And I hold hope for that. And that's where this idea of responsibility for sharing our discoveries comes from, right? That we have, we're at a unique time in human history, and our contributions matter, and our engagement matters, and we all have the capacity to be leaders, whether it's, so Bernadette says it's a passion to core connection. I love it. Thank you, Bernadette. That's beautiful. Yes. So this, it's interesting to me because while I've been developing this work for the better part of my life, it's wild to say that now, knowing I started at 30, right? That it's not my primary passion. Consciousness is, I guess, I could say is my primary passion. And my mission is more oriented to sustainability. That said, I believe that consciousness is foundational to making the shifts that we need to make in order to create a sustainable world. So it's all tied together. It took me a long time to see how these parts would fit together, because it seemed like there were these two separate parts of me. But consciousness is the unification, and the consciousness is transformative consciousness to be able to reshape our future and the possibility for the world. So anyway, back to discovery and the responsibility to share our discoveries that are going to forward possibility, forward humanity on the planet. And I mentioned really briefly about technological discoveries that people were murdered for because they were so disruptive. It's really interesting. I was talking to somebody yesterday who had worked for Exxon at one point, and they did the Myers-Briggs test on the people that worked at Exxon, and apparently this person was a disruptive thinker and was told, I think it was disruptive. Essentially, it was out of the box thinking, and it was told, we don't do that here at Exxon. I was like, oh, that's wild, because they were working with engineers and scientists, and like that kind of thinking doesn't play here. And I thought that was just so ironic, because that's what we need now more than ever, is people who are thinking about things in a new way, right? Because the status quo just isn't going to cut it. So we need these discoveries to be moving ourselves in a direction that is potentially, hopefully, life affirming, right? Rather than extractive and destructive, to be generative and positive, right? Anyway, that's kind of the story for today. I appreciate that you gave me the platform to be talking a little bit about the core connection work. I'm really excited about this interview because it was a shining moment, shall we say, and I think it really explains very clearly what the core connection work is about. And it is a discovery that I do want to share. I feel like it was gifted to me, not all in one download kind of thing, but in an evolutionary download. And I feel very privileged to be working with the people that I work with. And of course, there's a limit to how many people I can access or choose to, for that matter. So Rosalind says, I like to share new discoveries from Trader Joe's with my foodie friends. I'm a big fan of Trader Joe's. I just want to see them using less plastic. If it weren't for Trader Joe's, in so many ways, I would go hungry. And I'm just what the deal is with the plastic. So Rosalind says, I'm curious to hear the ways they use the ingredient like yuzu hot sauce. And I'm excited to hear more about the Core Connection Facilitator course. Well, I'm thrilled that you're excited to hear more about the course. I guess we get to have a dialogue because it's going to be something that I think the people that are interested, they're going to be able to help shape to a certain degree. And I have not checked out the yuzu hot sauce from Trader Joe's. So now you've given me something else to check out, which is exciting. Bernadette says, breaking the boundaries was informative, but no longer. Outside the box can be a beautiful thing, and yet the unknown can be scary. Many enjoy routine, except people like me. Yay, Bernadette. Yes, so the Core Connection work is not for people who want to stay in the box. And that's why the people that I work with, it's not a general public audience. It's really people who have already had who have done lots of work, who have a level of emotional intelligence and sovereignty and recognize their role in creating their lives and the quality of their lives. So anyway, I have an interview to do in just a couple minutes. So I'm going to sign off and say thank you, thank you, thank you. I so appreciate this forum and your engagement and your consistency. And, it's just it's so heartwarming to me to have your presence here and to be getting to know you over time. Anyway, I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. So please check out the other awesome programming through Enlightened World Network on Enlightened World Network Facebook page, Enlightened World Living, and EWN One with the Earth. And until next time, thank you, thank you, thank you. So much love and gratitude to you.